Are we recording, Hank?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Go ahead,
so,
you're the man.
business.
We'll leave for 5 minutes.
We
2 minutes.
do have a quorum here. Huntley, Frank, Dave, and we have to get some stuff. One thing out of the way first. We're supposed to vote for the chairperson. We're supposed to do that every year.
Yep.
So we have the new. I thought we had a new board member.
No, you got reappointed.
Okay.
Congratulations on it. And then wisdom was not
Thank you so much. So, somebody want to nominate somebody for the chair?
I'll nominate James.
Okay.
Susan.
Second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Congratulations.
In favor, okay. Secretary?
Nominate Huntley.
Oh, well, thank you.
Trouble is, I'm not here a lot of the
That
time.
means you have to take notes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nobody seconded it.
I'll notice
You're not,
somebody else.
if you don't want to accept it.
Well, we have a relatively small field to choose from.
Yes, okay, no, but we have to do it.
We need a vice chair too.
Pardon?
Need a vice chair.
We need a vice chair. I nominate Mr. Benish.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Opposed.
Okay.
Good. And then, secretary.
Nominate Dave Basin.
Yeah, I'll take that.
So you're gonna take
If you
this?
vote for me. I can write, I'm learning how to spell.
Right
I
across the
think
street.
we'll be
Are we gonna have a match here? Are we gonna have to run for secretary?
No, I think he should be fine as secretary.
Okay. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay.
All right, here. Take notes. Okay, so.
Take it seriously. Give it to me.
Huh?
Give it to me.
Give you a sheet of paper. I'm like too low.
Yeah, give me a piece of paper
That's going to be enough.
and a pen.
There's a pen.
There it is.
They have them germicide. Okay, so fun stuff is over.
And let's speak up further so the people at home can see you, hear you.
Okay, hello. So, the first application we're looking at tonight is 248 Green Hill Road. Mark and Susan Ross, parent or parent?
Parent?
Parent. 248 Green Hill Road in Jackson. And the application entails a new septic system to befit an addition, actually on an existing barn. Okay, so why don't you talk to us? Why don't you
Okay.
tell us what it's all about?
Do you want the long?
It's
Sort
whatever,
of the
whatever you
short-
think it's gonna be,
Well, what we're trying to do is,
I mean, we've all read here.
you have all read that?
Yeah.
just so it's on the records.
Gotcha. What we're trying to do is create or upgrade our septic system from a 3-bedroom antiquated system to a 4-bedroom modern system. Right now, we have approval for the 3-bedroom house. And we need that septic system for the house anyway, regardless of what happens at this meeting. But what we're trying to do is tear down our dilapidated barn and build a new building there, and we want to tie that in with the septic. So if you have read that report, you know that our property can hold 3.5 rooms in our septic system. We're asking for 4 rooms in the septic system. That's the short of it. The barn that we want to take down is pretty dilapidated, and we want to put a bathroom in the new building that we hope to build. It could be a dwelling where one person might live in a 1-bedroom small house, or it could be a barn or garage with utility sink, bathroom, safety shower, that kind of thing for a workshop. So the short of it is we want to tear down a building, build a new one, and tie that into the upgraded septic system. So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, sure.
Your application talks about an additional dwelling unit,
That's right.
and that's different than an additional bedroom. And does your septic plan, maybe I don't know what the plan closely, does your septic plan contemplate an additional dwelling unit, or does it contemplate a bedroom? Do you know?
We do know, we are asking for the ADU
Okay.
that will support.
And that's the way it was presented to the state, and they approved it on that basis.
That's correct. It does fit within the
What that
state.
means is there's, the septic load for an accessory dwelling unit is quite a bit more than for an additional bedroom in the house. Because obviously it's assumed that there's a kitchen, as well as the occupant in the bedroom with the bathroom.
Mhm.
So,
That was submitted that way to the state, and it met the state guidelines, doesn't meet Jackson guidelines.
Right.
So we started out with kind of asking for the biggest possible thing, the ADU, realizing the kitchen bathroom situation.
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
The way we wrote it was asking for the most that we wanted, like the ADU, if that makes sense.
Our ultimate goal is to have an ADU on the property
Yes.
that will attach into the septic system. Regardless of the outcome, we still need a septic system for our house. It's the antiquated and probably will fail on the other two. It hasn't failed yet. It's not a failed system, but it probably is headed that way. It's 150 years old. The tank has been upgraded, but the leaching system is pretty antiquated. So,
Well, we don't, has the town engineer opined that the lot can hold a three-bedroom unit? Three-bedroom unit by our standards?
by the standard of Jackson, the town of Jackson, and the inspector, not the inspector, but folks.
Yeah, Burr Phillips, the town engineer.
Approved for a 3.5 bedrooms.
Yeah.
That's what our lot,
We'll support three and a half, so it's a three-bedroom house, so.
that's right, so it'll support
Okay.
3.5 bedrooms.
Okay,
So we are hoping to get that additional half bedroom, call it 4 bedrooms.
well, actually, it's closer probably to 4.5 as an accessory dwelling unit. It's more than one more bedroom. It's, as I said earlier, it's a bedroom plus a kitchen. So that has a higher septic load than just having a fourth bedroom in your house.
Fair enough.
You have a dry well.
That's correct.
Is the intent to hook the ADU up to the dry well also?
No, the ADU will have a separate tank. So there'll be a tank for the house, 1250 tank for the house.
Tank
Yeah.
for a septic.
Right, and a 1250 tank for the ADU that will feed into
The leaching.
The same
the
leach
leach field, exactly. And it's been designed by Ron Briggs, and it shows on the map the size of the additional bedroom.
So the lot can hold the additional load as engineered.
Well, no, it's been turned down because it cannot support the additional load.
Can't support it, okay, sorry.
They have an existing septic system,
Yeah.
which, no matter what it is grandfathered, so they have a right to continue using it. And the issue here is, they're asking for a variance to waive the town's minimum lot size standards, which, based on load and soil type and slope, dictate what can be built there, what size of system can be supported.
Yeah, because so the dry well is not shown on the plan.
But
Did I see? I'm just.
Dry well's not gonna be there in the future.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah,
So that'll be-
that's
You're
engineered
looking
there.
at, you're looking at what they designed, which doesn't include.
Yeah, so well, I'm seeing, that's why, but it's not showing as, you know, oh, there is existing driveway to be demolished.
Because the existence is just a cesspool anyway, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's an upgrade on what they have.
Right.
It's this, the cesspool is just honeycomb shaped
Yeah.
cinder block,
Yeah,
basically, cave in the ground.
yeah.
I
And,
remember those.
yeah, and apparently it's, I don't know when that was put in, but probably 100 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that. So that's the short story.
And I think probably the town specs didn't allow for a 4-bedroom, but I think state does, right?
That's right.
That's
It
what
passed the state.
We've run into this before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're going to, again,
Yeah.
another one.
Well, we've been running into it ever since the,
Town.
well, what's really, I mean, this is, what's really kind of made it more of an issue is the desire for accessory dwelling units.
Mhm.
So, so that's as much of an issue as people trying to add additional bedrooms to a house. Because the accessory dwelling unit just requires quite a bit more, so in terms of septic system.
Yeah, it seems, because that's why there's 2 tanks, because a 3-bedroom house needs a 1250 gallon, and I see that there's a tank for each unit.
Yeah, just to be clear about the accessory dwelling unit, it's not going to be a gigantic bedroom house. It's going to be a studio apartment. I understand that
It
also
doesn't
includes a
matter, yeah.
kitchen, but it's very
It's,
small.
whether it's 1 bedroom or a studio, it doesn't matter. I personally, I just went through this, and had to, develop a plan for accessory dwelling unit in my house. And it was, it required a substantial expansion from what I had.
I have another question.
Yeah.
You did a nice job, somebody did a nice job in presenting it. Did you do that? Very nice. And I think you covered all the points that we would be, we're required to take into consideration based on the policy. And one of the things that we will look at, think about, are required to think about is whether your property is unique in relation to other properties, in the area, immediately in the area. And you did address that, but maybe you can address it in a little more detail in regard to, I know you've got slope, but what's your lot like in relation to the lots around you? Is it really unique? Do other people not have the slope you have?
Yeah, that's a really, Mark and I were talking about this tonight. The whole neighborhood is hill, of course. Our place is built right up against a very steep hill. It basically flanks the whole back of the property.
Goes up like this.
When I talked to Ron about the land that he used for the square footage to create, how much space we had, he did not include that slope in his calculations because it doesn't contribute to what we needed for the septic.
So the square footage that was used to calculate
Right,
is less than the property that we own.
I got it.
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering is, the property that you own, it goes up and is it then flat on top?
Yeah, it
is
goes right
actually-
up to
Yeah,
the,
it borders
To the road?
right up to the next property. It goes right up over the edge and almost basically to their window wells because when their house was built,
Yeah, so
Those
it does
roads will
rise
follow
steeply,
way back
and then
when.
it has about 10 or 15 feet
Yeah,
before the property
okay.
line.
Yeah.
And is the geography of your property, this steep rise,
Mhm.
is that different than your neighbor there, your neighbor, I know that's different than Steve Gwen's property.
Yeah, So the next folks down would be between, like the septic area would be between our house and their house. They get a slope as well on that side. It's not as steep, it's further back from their building. But they're kind of on the turn of the hill, and then the people around the bend from them have it's steep there too, I guess.
Mhm.
As steep as yours?
I don't think so,
No,
no.
it's not as close. And there's, it's just, yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, I guess maybe we can't answer the question, but I'm wondering if the other lots, homes in the area, if it's steep enough to make their pitch unusable from a septic standpoint? Or are you the only people that are steep enough to have to exclude that hill from calculation?
I would say, well,
We don't know.
I guess I don't know. Is the
Yeah.
answer, yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I know the Levines put in a new septic a couple years back, and I don't know what the Slates have done.
The rise on our property is the longest, our property is shaped sort of like a triangle. It's the longest part, the longest footage. The steepest part is the longest boundary
Yeah,
of the property.
right.
The other boundary is the road
Right.
and between the neighbor.
It's the backside.
Right. So I would think that it would be unique in that it's a fair amount of footage that is not used in the calculation.
Yeah.
So I think that is unique from neighboring properties. Without going up there and taking a look, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
If we're finished, we have to ask if any others have any, anybody else have comments?
I was waiting for you over there. So, abutters, anybody in favor of this? And,
Yes, it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood.
okay. All right, say that a little bit louder, please.
Is that there will be an improvement to the neighborhood.
And for the people, so just identify yourself as well.
Oh, sorry, Gwen Bosford,
Thank you.
251 Green Hill, across the street.
And anybody opposed to this? Take that as a no. Right. I guess we need to go through the motions here, so.
No, let me, I feel like I should say what's going to cover my building. Unfortunately, I mean, there are some useful arguments here. Some are persuasive, but I think this is the wrong forum for it. There are things that the planning board might consider in how we set up our minimum lot sizes. You know, I think that, you know, the application by soil type and the slope of the land is applied fairly uniformly, applied uniformly across the town, and smaller lots or lots that have slopes or lots that have poor soil can support less septic system. So I don't see, the whole point of the variance is where this is the barest form is whether or not somebody is being treated unfairly vis-a-vis other properties, other parts of the town. If there's something unique about your property that perhaps wasn't considered by the planning board and the town when they adopted the zoning ordinance. I don't see how you're being treated any differently than anybody else with that size lot, with that kind of soil, with that kind of slope. So, you know, I think just based on that, I have a difficult time supporting a variance here. Not that, you know, the planning board might reconsider how they set up the zoning ordinance for soil types and density and minimum lot sizes. But, you know, you don't have a situation that your lot is particularly unique, that, you know, somehow the application of the zoning ordinance to that lot treats you unfairly and perhaps wasn't anticipated when the general zoning ordinance was created. At least that's how I feel. But fortunately, there are 4 other people on the board who may have a different opinion, and probably do. You know, I have difficulty with, you know, seeing how this is different from any other lot of similar size and similar.
Well,
I know you will. But, and so I just wanted to
I have a question that doesn't have to do with that. I noticed that in your application, you mentioned the reason for the zoning ordinance in Jackson being different than the state zoning ordinance. And I was wondering where you got that information, or what you saw that led you to believe that it was to limit development and housing, as opposed to make sure that we had good septic and could preserve groundwater and wells, et cetera, et cetera.
You follow that?
I did follow that. I'm trying to remember where I think when I was talking with Ron about it, he talked to me, and he mentioned that Ron Briggs,
who designed the septic
was
system.
our septic designer, mentioned that a lot of times town ordinances are stricter than the state in order to help guide new construction. So with that in mind, and thinking about like the density of new construction and keeping septic in check so that groundwater and wells are protected, which I certainly understand.
So that was something that Ron Briggs was
Yeah,
saying.
and I also
It
read
often
all
works
the-
like this.
Yeah,
They had no specific information regarding Jackson. I mean, you look back through minutes when they were putting all this together and find that they discussed, oh, we're doing this in order to limit the amount of new construction or anything like that.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So is this a decision that,
Well, I just won. What happens is the chair will call a vote on each of the 5 or 6 criteria.
yeah,
And, you know, if there are enough people who support granting the variance, then it'll be granted. But before we start taking votes, we have the ability to discuss among themselves
sure.
why somebody's voting the way they are, or explaining things.
So it doesn't have to be unanimous?
No, you have to have at least 3 people. So.
You just need a preponderance.
Okay.
You need to win.
No, I mean,
There's a Senate
if there were only 3 people here, they'd need all 3.
Or they could say, I'm going to wait until you have
Yes.
full board.
Yes.
We're all here.
And any, because the three bedrooms are already accepted, right? As far as the septic for the new septic.
Yes, it's designed for 3.5. Our lot can hold 3.5 rooms, according to the
Your
engineer.
design brings.
That's right.
And from a variance point of view, since it doesn't matter, they already have a 3-bedroom house,
Yeah.
because that would then be grandfathered and allowed to.
But I think it's interesting that, yes, they do meet the state criteria. In fact, they meet the Jackson criteria for 3 bedrooms. So, I mean, just to make that clear, they're not saying, well, we're grandfathered.
No, I was referring to something that.
I understand. I'm just saying, I want to make that clear.
But actually, they're okay for 3.5.
Right.
On Jackson's current criteria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're just dealing with,
Jackson versus State.
yeah, and just another,
But the accessory dwelling unit is much more than a bedroom, as I said earlier. I mean, it's not like adding a
oh,
fourth
yeah,
bedroom.
you've got your
It's more like
kitchen.
adding 2 bedrooms.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
it's-
I guess when Ron was explaining things to us, and even what Burr was explaining to us, that differentiation, I must have missed it, or wasn't explained.
Yeah, there is a differentiation, and Verb knows, you know, what that is.
It's in the zoning ordinance.
And there are no disposals, right?
Say it again,
No
please.
disposals in the
Oh,
kitchen.
No.
Well, that's why I asked about the dry well, because if you were gonna connect to an existing dry well, that would take a bit of the load off the septic system. I'm not quite sure how that flies with the town of Jackson,
I
but,
believe dry wells are illegal now.
are they not?
I'm not positive, I'm pretty sure they are.
I think as soon as we want to upgrade, we have to do better than the drywall.
Basically, I think if I've just read this quickly, I think, you know, it's, the septic load would be whatever it is for a 3-bedroom house. But then you add to that which I think is roughly 83% of what a 4-bedroom house is. And then you add to that another 60% of a 4-bedroom house to get what the load is. So for, I'm just, this, to me, it looks like for a 3-bedroom house with an accessory apartment and dwelling unit, accessory apartment, 1-bedroom or studio dwelling unit, it's the same as a, you know, like a 6-bedroom house. It's 1.4 times the septic requirements of a 4-bedroom house. So adding accessory apartment is a, you know, and this is, I think, from the Soil Society of Northern New England, creates theoretically a great additional load, largely because it's treated as a separate dwelling unit, as opposed to a separate apartment, as opposed to a separate bedroom. Sorry for the correction.
Do we need to close before we talk?
No,
Okay, all right. Well, I would prefer not to have to vote on this tonight. I'd like to look at that lot in regard to the lots around it, because I know where they are, and I've seen their place 1,000 times, but I've never stopped and think, oh, what's their lot like in relation to other lots? To see if, in my mind, it's a unique situation. The other thing that I would like to know is, given what they have, given the situation that they have, how far are they off what would be required for an additional dwelling unit? And I would like to know those things before I voted yea or nay on
Because
this.
Burr could probably answer that.
I'm sure he could, but we would ask.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
So that's my thought anyhow. I don't,
well,
it's got to be unique. I mean, that's a requirement. We have to judge it to be unique in regard to other properties, not necessarily anywhere in town, but in the area.
Is that subjective?
Hmm?
Is that subjective?
Well, to some extent, it's
Yeah,
subjective.
sure.
It's, you know, we have to make that determination. Yeah.
Again, this gets to
Judgment call.
the point that, you know, to grant a variance, somehow we have to decide that you're being treated kind of unfairly.
No, I don't,
Yeah, vis-à-vis others.
I think
It's-
unfairly is the wrong
it-
word.
across
I think unfairly is the word.
It's the wrong word, I think.
Um,
It's causing a bigger burden, it's causing a bigger burden
No,
on you
unjust-
because
unjust-
of the uniqueness of your
No,
property.
injustice then, unjust.
I recall we had to give you an idea, we had a house locally who wanted to build a porch. We don't remember this. Wanted to build a porch and they wanted to build on the front of their house, but they were way too close to the road, the setback. And we gave them the variance. And the reason we gave them the variance at that time, I want to preface this, by the way, by saying that there is no, the zoning board of adjustment is not bound by things they might have done. Every case is unique. But we gave them that because all the houses around them had, relatively flat lots. But right behind their house was a hill that went straight up in the air, and as I recall, ledge. Well, there's no way in the world they could build a porch because they just couldn't build it. But other people had the space and they didn't have the space, and we gave them the variance. I don't remember if you voted for that or not, do you?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I know. And I'm
It was
not going to be any clearer than that, but
Became a
I'm just saying
ranch,
that was unique. Their house was the only one in the area in that situation where they were inhibited because of the slope.
So are you making a motion to,
I didn't make a motion.
are you about to postpone this hearing?
Well, I'm saying that's what I would like to do. If I'm the only one who wants to do that, well, I could make that motion. I'd like to postpone this hearing for further information.
I second.
Let's see,
We're gonna ask them.
it'd be postponed or adjourned to the next meeting date, probably a month from now.
Mr. Vice Chairman, you tell me
Yes.
how to make it, I'll make it.
I mean, I have a question about the nature of this cesspool, and how much of an improvement it is to, to get rid of that. So I think maybe I probably should have gone up and taken a look at the site. But yeah, I tend to agree with you that we need a little
Well,
more.
is somebody gonna contact Burr and get him
Yeah,
here?
we can contact him, sure.
The new secretary.
Or at least ask a question now. So we have to then vote on the motion to,
Yes, so it's been
Postpone.
seconded, and so we all vote. All those in favor to postpone? Sorry.
I say no.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to come back, and this is for everybody who might be in the audience. There won't be another public notice. We will just reconvene on the third Wednesday of May, which hopefully we can all make.
My phone just died.
Um,
Third Wednesday of May.
That would be May 18th at 7 o'clock at this place.
Will you all be making a site visit?
I
don't know.
I will go. I'll go out and go.
I don't think, we probably won't do it as a group, because in part there's
No,
kind of issues about it being a public meeting then.
we'll kind of wander up there.
But you know what we look like. Don't shoo us off the property.
I think it is the oldest house in the neighborhood, isn't it?
I think it is the oldest house in the neighborhood, save for the cabin up on Iron Mountain. About down below.
Joanna Mountains was part of your
That's
house,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So-
Brooks's house might be, yeah, like the same
Lisa's
thing.
house at the very
I
bottom,
think
part
part
of
of-
it too.
Part of their house was attached to our house.
Oh, yeah. I think yours is the only three-bedroom in that immediate area where you are.
So we could always demote our house to two bedroom, could we
What was the
not?
vote on that? Was it,
You could.
was
You
it
could.
4-1?
Did anybody vote negative aside, except me? All the rest of you all voted yes?
Yes.
To postpone?
Yes.
4-1.
So,
Now, he just brought up,
Even though I'm not secretary anymore.
Well, you're double checking it.
he just brought up a good point, though. Say he did turn the main house into a two-bedroom, and the septic, they can get a 2.5 bathroom. Now, would that still, there would be 3 bedrooms then, but 2 kitchens?
Well, the zoning ordinance,
Probably.
The-
That would be
the-
the way to approach it.
Yeah.
the basic calculation that Bert makes is mostly based on the septic load of a 4-bedroom house. and it's driven from the Soil Society, the Society of Soil Scientists of Southern New England, SSS, something like that, SSSNE. And then there's factors applied, and if I understand it, and I may be wrong, but the 4-bedroom house, whatever that calculation is for a 4-bedroom house, it's kind of like unit 1. If it's a 3-bedroom house, it's 83% of what a 4-bedroom house costs. If you're going to build a 2-bedroom house, is 60% of what a 4-bedroom house is. So if you're going to build 2-bedroom houses on that lot, you'd need, I think, 60% plus 60%, or 120% of what a 4-bedroom house requires.
I think he's talking a 2-bedroom house and a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
A 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom are going to be the same.
Yeah,
Well, but I think, to put it in lay terms, it's not how many toilets there are, it's how many people are there. And there's
It's not toilets, it's
That's what
bedrooms.
But from a usage standard, it's not how many bedrooms there are, not legally, it's how many people are there and how much water is consumed and dispersed.
And these factors,
Based on that, I realize.
these factors are 60, 83, and 100,
Yeah.
are based on average family sizes,
Yeah.
and
Well,
on average.
And I'm agreeing with you, I'm just saying, you're not pulling numbers out of the
No, no,
sky. It's based on how many people could be there. A one-bedroom addition could be 2 people, and that's where the calcs come from. I'm sure they take that into account.
You mean the accessory dwelling unit?
Yes. Well, a one-bedroom house could have 2 people there, so they take that into account.
Yes, but
I'm agreeing with you.
you are, okay.
I'm just trying to
Yeah, it's.
soften the blow, and that we're not just saying it because of the numbers, it's because this.
Well, this is where the
based on statistics.
Jackson numbers came from,
Yeah.
and, and they're largely based on what this scientific society recommends for septic systems in northern New England. And that's what we've adopted with some changes. I don't know what other towns have done or why.
Okay, so.
So we should, this hearing has now been postponed until next month.
Okay, so do we need to take any action?
No.
No.
Just come back if you want.
You might.
You don't even have to come back.
Roaming around here.
We're going to meet again and hopefully decide.
Okay.
May 18th, you said.
Rather, yeah. So, well, thank you for coming. Sorry that.
Thanks. Any other, does have anything to add, Holly? You've been to our property,
Yeah, I have. I've actually been in most of the houses in your whole neighborhood.
I'm sure you have.
Right,
Well, thanks.
We'll
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
we'll get this done somehow or other.
sorry to drag this out.
That's all right. Do what you gotta do.
Do you want to ask these guys to let us know when we're up there, so we're...
Well, that's what I was wondering. if-
People on the property.
Just, let us know.
Is there any way you can let us know? We have
I will-
caregivers there, Mark's mom and dad.
I will come up, take a look, and is your phone number in here?
Anytime after 12 noon is probably the best time.
Okay.
They need a tour.
My number is 603-730-4306.
4306.
And let me know you're coming, I'll bring you some bread and pastry from the bakery.
Oh, I can't do
That could be considered a bribe.
Right. Okay, so we're all done.
I think we're all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, so next, there's another public hearing.
Okay, so this is Wanda Solkowski. Am I saying that properly? So this is the second violation notice,
And just for the whole board, because I got some emails from the town, and I shared it with you, but at least one or two people overlooked them. This is an appeal from an administrative decision. What's interesting is the appeal is not, which are typically because of somebody else in town has misinterpreted the zoning ordinance. This appeal is not about that, as near as I can determine.
No.
This appeal is actually a question of fact. And I initially suggested to the town attorney that, this is not an appropriate venue for deciding a fact. I thought we only dealt with interpretations of the zoning ordinance. But I was informed by the town
Or
attorney.
building code.
And the building code, of course, what was set as a building code appeals.
And now the STR regulation.
Yes. Well, this STR regulation is part of the zoning. What's unusual here as an appeal is we have to decide whether or not the town got its facts right, not whether the town is interpreting the zoning ordinance appropriately.
Right.
So we are trying a fact. Okay.
In this case, because they
Acting as a
made
court.
it based on
More
what they
of a court
thought was
than we
a
usually
fact
do.
in regard to the ordinance.
Yes,
Otherwise, they could have misinterpreted the ordinance.
they may have, yeah, but that's
Okay.
not what the
No,
appeal
that's
says.
not what happened.
All right. So would either of you try to?
Yeah.
Well, actually, you should ask this.
You already started. Go ahead.
Okay. Would you, somebody kind of briefly summarize, we've all read the information, we've seen the town notice letter, we've seen the complaint, at least one complaint I'm aware of, from a neighbor about cars being parked, blocking either the driveway or the road, I don't remember which. But if you want to kind of
Sure.
update us, and then we'll ask you some questions, and then we'll ask if anybody else in the audience has anything to add, either supporting or not supporting your request, your appeal.
Great. So my name, for the record, is Thomas Sokowski. I'm the son of the petitioner, Wanda Sokowski, to her property. The issue, like you said, for the appeal was the fact that on those days, we weren't renting because we knew we had difficulty with the plow. And we could get into also variance issue as well, but starting with the fact item of the place not being rented on the day of the violation. I also have my cousin who was staying there at the time. It's actually his car in the picture. He had difficulty getting up the hill, so that was a day that we didn't have a guest. And I also have on my calendar that those days were blocked off, that we had booked, he didn't accept bookings. I had people that wanted to go but didn't, because we knew that there was going to be an issue with plowing. And then going into the variance, the property, the road is very unique in the sense that my mother's been living there for like 35 years. Her and her brother, who also lives further down the road, and 40, yeah. And it's always been a hardship in the sense that I think from what I know originally, they tried to dig it up. There's a big boulder there. It just can't be moved. So recently we've been, I think they try to drill holes into it to put some chemical that could break it, or try to cut it or saw it.
So boulders in the road?
In the road. So it is on a steep hill that curves. And that boulder, it's been a hardship for a while. And in winters, when there's been severe conditions, sometimes the car can't make it up. They park on the side of the road. It's not obstructing any of the other properties. It's already past the other properties. And that's what has been done. And sometimes may happen in these situations. And that's what we're trying to discuss now, if we could
if there's something that could be done about that. We've had difficulties even finding plows. We went through a few people that just didn't want to deal with that steep hill. And I think it's just really trying to just cut out that boulder. It's just been a difficulty, but luckily we have been able to get a plow in the last season, but we didn't have one on those 3 days, and that's why we didn't. And it was around Christmas time. It's a very busy time too, so we didn't take any people. But my cousin wanted to stop by there, and he did. His father also lives on that street further down. And that's whose car was in the picture. So that is the fact that we are disputing of whether it was an Airbnb guest. It wasn't Airbnb guest. It was just tenanted. Yeah.
It wasn't an owner, but it was
It
a
was
member of the
a
family.
member of the family. Yes.
And that's where they were going, to the house at the top of the hill.
Yes.
My granddaughter come and she cannot make it too. And she called from the father, she come and she helped her because she took the, you know.
It's a difficult
Yeah.
turn because it's like if you take it too close to the right, you could get, in trouble. You have to kind of go from the left. And it always been unique in that sense and just a hardship because trying to find someone that would be able to do something with it is just complex. I think the biggest thing is to try to just cut that rock because you're not going to be able to remove the rock.
I've got two questions. One, have you, you have rented out the STR during the winter, during other parts of the winter. Do you have any idea how many times in, say, November or January?
There were a few times if somebody doesn't have a four-wheel drive. I think in the listing now we put in the recommended only cars with four-wheel drive.
So my question is, how many times have you rented it?
In the winter, I don't know exactly, but a decent amount has been most of the winter, the times, but not when we know that the conditions aren't well.
Is that 5 times a month? 2 times a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right
Well, no, 5, no, maybe not 5,
Not
but,
five.
no, not
now.
5. But yeah,
Three sometimes two.
and the majority we get up the hill, we don't really have that issue, but it is, yeah,
And this is a private road.
yeah.
How is it plowed? Who contracts for the plowing?
That we try to find people and it gets
We pay for
difficult.
that one.
But even for the part of the road that, is it, are there other houses on the private road?
Yes.
And who pay, do they help with the plowing, or?
No, because it just seems that we're kind of just at the end of the road, so it's,
So they have somebody else plow their part of the road?
yeah, but they won't go further up because that's the,
Okay. That's the questions I have. And
Well, STRs, I believe, I'm surprised that they got approved with a driveway or a road like that because they have to provide parking for all their guests.
Right.
And my understanding is there were times this winter when there was snowmobile trailers up there and there was no room to park all those vehicles. So.
on the property.
Right, and I think to have an STR, you have to be able to park all the vehicles on the property, or,
But the point here is they're saying, hey, this has got nothing to do with an STR, right?
Well, that's the,
but it's an STR.
well,
approved.
that's why I was asking the question, and it's an issue for us, is the complaint from the neighbor was about cars blocking the driveway.
Yeah.
But the town looked at it and issued a violation notice that you're in violation of the short-term rental act
Right.
because you aren't providing for parking on the driveway. This is but one instance, whether or not thinking these were these cars, but also my understanding is they were aware of other incidents on the road and that it was not always plowed in the wintertime.
Well, and they admit it's not always.
Well, and this is, so this getting to, the issue is, are we simply looking at whether or not the the issue is the car, these two cars,
Yeah, this.
were that their problem?
Yeah,
Or are we looking at the issue that the town is right to cite them because they're unable to comply, as Huntley says, with providing parking lot at all times?
Well, if they're not renting it, and see, this is a question really of mine.
yeah.
If they're not renting it, if there's nobody renting it, then do they have to have parking places for nobody?
Well, but
I mean, I don't know.
But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 complaints here, and all have to do with, and I'm gonna use the terminology here, road not maintained, and I'm assuming that that's your private road. So, guess we're forced to park on the street, road not maintained, parked in the middle of the road. Road not maintained, parked in the ditch on my property, and the last one is about the same thing. So,
Before, actually, I'm not, I should have, perhaps, something we should perhaps, before we're getting in the meat of this, is see if these people have anything more to say, and also find out whether there's any other people in the audience that have something to say.
Yep.
I agree.
And then we still have to wrestle with that fact of what are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
Well, I discussed it with our building inspector at one point.
Yeah. So, anything else to add?
No, I just would like to also add that we got the, I believe, we got the variance or the approval for short-term rental because we've been grandfathered in. I think we've already, almost 10 years, we started doing this before things got.
You were grandfathered in.
Yeah, before, we think we started Airbnb before things started really getting crazy now. But, so we've been doing it for a while already, and never any problems. I think it's just, that area is starting to get more developed now, starting to see more properties, people building, so now it's starting to be a problem, but it wasn't before.
Were you registered with the state?
They just started doing that, so there was no registration back then.
I think there's always been, you've always had to pay a meals tax, as long as it's been.
A meals tax.
Yes,
Air-
rooms and meals.
Airbnb is paying those taxes for everybody that works.
So I don't know whether we accepted it until they registered with the state. I'm not positive on that.
What the thing says is that to get a permit, which I assume you've got now a permit, even though you were grandfathered in, they have to have a verified meals and tax number, and I'm sure that comes from, frankly, Airbnb.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting question whether being grandfathered exempts you from the requirement of having adequate parking.
Oh, that.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It exempts you from the requirement of only renting it for 30 days a year.
Okay.
That's what it exempts you from.
Anything else before we ask other people?
I think I would just like to just understand adequate parking, because we have parking, I think it's just some extreme, rare conditions where there could be an issue where it's gonna be on the side of the road. So that would be good to kind of understand. I mean, we are aware that there is parking there, it's just sometimes that to get up that steep hill, a car may have to park on the side of the road.
And you can't really do that. They've got to be parked in your designated parking spaces on your property.
when we had, we owned in across the street, and we had, because of the snow piling up, we lost parking spaces, and we parked in the public parking lot, and we got a ticket for parking overnight there.
Yeah.
And my wife said, "This is," I said, "No, it's against the rules, you can't do it." So it doesn't matter what you can't accommodate by what you can't do. You can't break laws, you can't park on streets when you're not supposed to. In my humble opinion.
And that's because you're an STR.
When your car
I
is
could
driving
walk
in
the
the
street.
street with your car break out, then you have to leave in the street and you wait
If
for
your
the
car
car.
breaks down, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole
Yeah.
different
The same
thing.
way
People are
he
parking
come
there.
when he
You
was
can't get
coming.
up the street.
he
You
go
can't get up
in
the street, it's
he
not,
go in the grip,
that's not the
and he
town's
don't
issue.
drop anybody.
You get a tow truck
He
and you
call
pull the
for-
truck.
Yeah.
He call for triple A to come and help him. That's a difficult
Yeah, there was a
situation.
triple
But you
A.
weren't,
Triple A come in and help him.
you weren't doing
No.
that, you weren't, but you didn't do that, so,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah,
So, any other discussion?
No, in this case, this was a different case, but I think it's also the uniqueness of the properties is the hardship that I was bringing up, the ask to exemption, if something could be done about the situation. But, because otherwise, I don't know about maintenance, what else could possibly be done, but haven't had issues before for a long time. I think it's just rarity that something like this may happen, but at this time, when it did happen.
There were 5 complaints. 5.
Is there 5 different?
5 different complaints,
At
different
different
dates, I
times?
checked, different dates.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't believe that all the short-term rentals that are registered in Jackson, as long as, because I'm on the planning board also, none of them have asked for any type of an exception or,
Well,
you know,
I mean, I don't know how you would apply for a variance.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I want, for a variance, I don't want to have people parking here because
Are
they
these
can't get
complaints
up.
from different people?
Doesn't matter, there are 5 different dates.
That's another thing.
There are 5 different dates. And actually, the names are scrubbed, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, 'cause-
Scrubbed by the town, so I don't know.
Okay.
Are
Okay,
there
so-
other people in the audience wishing to say something?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you stand up and identify yourself and speak loudly so we can hear you?
Just to note, gentlemen, and so this was Christmas, right? If you look at the date that the vehicle, I don't know what date you guys have. I'm legally within my right to visit my father on Christmas, right?
Sure.
That's his property. It's a private road. I would even argue to say that that's his private road as well as ours. My vehicle did get stuck in a ditch, at AAA. I had to wait Christmas, 3, 4, 5 hours. So that's, I mean, this is not an SDR issue. When it comes to substantiated 5 claims, you actually probably have 3 claims. Excuse me. And if you have 3 claims, what kind of proof do you have is the other question. But the only 2 examples you have are pictures of my vehicle, right? And then you have a picture of some red vehicle that we don't know where it came from. If you all know, that is the Black Mountain Trail, right, that area. So people do go through that area, be it Malone Road up top, where the old dump is, or occasionally, they do go up this area and they hike. So, we can't say for sure that that red vehicle was an SDR. That vehicle, from what we know, and they do have cameras that do identify any car that does stay there, and they don't recognize that car.
Well, you said they didn't have any guests during
Right.
this time.
Right, so, but when you look at the 2 substantiated photos that are in the report, because the other 3, again,
Yeah.
they're just hearsay at this point, right? But the only 2 evidence you have are the ones that are my vehicle, has nothing to do with SDR,
Ridiculous.
right? And then you have a red vehicle that no one knows where it came from.
Has this been fined before? This is the second
The second
fine,
violation,
yeah. And so it's been notices of violation of the past, and I guess nobody complained.
I never got that. We never got that. I don't remember getting the first violation. I don't, maybe,
Can we, no, you've got other people.
Yes. Please, anybody else stand up and say yeah, yeah?
Yeah, I will. Or I can speak for, my name's Cameron James, I'm one of the neighbors, this is my mother, Dee James. Those complaints are from us. And I do remember this incident where your black Prius got stuck, and he's not lying, it was around Christmas, and when they came out and got the car towed, or however you guys got it out, he introduced himself and did say he was related to the family. To go back on the plowing issue, my mom, myself, and my wife maintain from the end of my driveway down into her driveway and out into, is it Maloon, that comes down off,
Carter Notch.
Actually, it's Francis Way.
Francis Way and then Spruce.
Okay.
So we maintain from our property down on the private road, and then these guys maintain up. I do have to disagree with them saying that they don't have people staying when the conditions are poor. I've been outside at the end of my driveway in a blizzard watching people try to get their cars out of the ditch in between our properties. The boulder, I would assume, is on the corner. Is it under the road? Is that?
Yeah.
It's in the sand.
It's in, deep in there.
Okay. The red car, I would assume, came from my mother's camera, or one of the pictures that we took. There's been multiple times that this has occurred. My mother's had snowmobile trailers parked in her yard because they couldn't get up due to the snow or due to being able to fit up the deer parking lot. I've come out of the woods with my dog walking and have people trying to park their cars on our property because they can't get up or there's no room. I don't know why they're not able to get up. I understand that we live in northern New Hampshire, we get a lot of snow, and I've had my four-wheel drive truck stuck. Like, I understand people get stuck, but I don't believe the road is maintained properly. When it is plowed, people make it up. I'm not gonna argue with that.
When you say the road, this is your private road.
So we all live on Spring Street.
Okay.
My mom lives.
Which is private
private.
road. Okay,
Correct.
I just want to be.
Yep. When it is maintained, people make it up. When it is not, they do not. And it is not maintained more than it is maintained. And people get stuck and they interfere with us getting in and out of our properties.
I would just like to add to that.
Let's, other people are talking right now.
So I just want to, I don't know if we're here debating his incident with the family member's car, or we're debating the whole property. So.
And that's what we're still trying to figure out as a
Yeah,
board.
because if we're debating his incident, his black Prius, then I can't argue anything because he's not one. It was around Christmas, he introduced himself as a family member, the road was not plowed, he got stuck. If we want to debate it as a whole, I think it's an ongoing issue.
And so I'm Dee James, or Dee Handy, and I live at 6 Spring Street. And I'd just like to add that that property during these I've lived in my house since 2019. So the first year I was there, they did not rent the apartment, the Airbnb, because they told us that it was too hard for people to get up there in the wintertime. And it was too hard to find a plow person to take care of that property. So that, but then the next winter, they decided to rent it, and still, the road was not maintained. And that winter, this is my first or my second winter at this location, and I can tell you, every single Friday night between 10 and 11, somebody would be stuck, and they'd be out there trying to get themselves unstuck. And I let it go. I didn't for one know really what I was supposed to do, and I probably should have put some complaints in that year, but I did not. And but I did try and find out Wanda's number, and I was going to call her and tell her that maybe you guys should tell people they should come in four-wheel drive vehicles, because the people we spoke with, because we'd go out and say, hey, what's going on, and they'd say, oh, they should have told us we needed a four-wheel drive, and we have one, but now we didn't bring it because we didn't know we needed it, and so they're stuck. And the other thing is that I did have, a whole trailer, came home from work, and there's a whole trailer parked right next to my shed on my property with 4 ATVs in it, And so I went right up to the apartment and, you know, they're very apologetic and sorry, we couldn't get up around the corner with it and all that. You know, and it's happened a number of times. I've had to deal with the guests and why they want to park in my driveway or what they're doing, you know, sitting out front of my house, just trying to figure out how to get up the hill. I had to call the police a few times and ask for their assistance. And I just don't understand if, you know, this is an Airbnb, and if people can't get up the road to the Airbnb, then why is the Airbnb being rented? So that's my issue.
And the one more man in back, and state your name again.
My name is Mark Lemanek, so I'm related to my father. He lives in 19 Spring Street, and I visit him quite often in 19 Spring Street. So just in regards to the road, getting up to the Spring Street itself, going up to that steep road, past the neighbors' driveways. So I have a sedan. My brother, who also drives up to my dad's house, also has a sedan. And I've got stuck so many times going up there. And I'm not Airbnb, I just go visit my dad. And the road oftentimes was plowed during the wintertime. Plowed, and I would get stuck. Part of the reason why I get stuck is because in order to go up that steep hill, you need to gather some speed in order to get that. Because if you don't get that speed, there could be some ice there or something. It's very hard to get up there. And it's sometimes it's so frustrating going up to that hill because oftentimes right next to their homes, there's so many potholes. It's hard to get that speed. So you have to drive rather slowly to get up that steep hill. Whereas once you get past their driveways, we spent hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, working on that road, making it level, taking out the potholes. I mean, you can just drive there to Spring Street to see our side of the road, how nicely just level it is and smooth. But when you go next to their homes and their driveways, there's potholes, there's rocks sticking out of the road. It's very hard to get that speed, which is very necessary. Not to get speed very fast, but you need to get a little bit of speed to go up that steep hill and take that turn. And so there are potholes next to the driveways, on their side of the road. And so I'm trying to say there are rocks sticking out.
When you say their side of the road?
Their side of the road, in front of their homes.
There's a lot of what would be water has
Isn't
washed
this
out the
road all
road.
of our road though?
Well, no, but
Isn't this a private road?
We've contributed
Okay,
$100.
let's have a conversation on you.
I
think we hear you, I just want to
know what you meant by their side of the road, because it's a private road and it's owned by everybody that lives on it?
well,
Yeah, so we maintain our
So
side.
everybody owns the road,
Exactly.
everybody.
well, okay. So does that sort of mean that my father, my aunt has to pay for everything?
All I
or-
want to know is that everybody owns the road. It's not a town road, it's a private road.
Exactly.
That's right, it's a private road.
Private road.
What I'm trying to say is we maintain our, by
They
our homes, we maintain the private road there, but by their homes, it's not maintained. So does that mean that we have to maintain the entire private road and take all the potholes and the rocks? By our homes, the road looks very nice.
We got you.
So that's my point. So it makes it hard for just regular cars to get up that hill because by their homes, the road's not taken care of.
I would just like to add, Blake's was saying that, about the, various violations that they're mentioning. And it's beginning to seem that this could also be, they're trying to just get away to ban, the short-term rental. If there are any issues, we could try to mitigate them. Nobody should be parking on your property at all. I think
Nobody
you
should be
call
parking in
the
the
police.
road.
Yeah, well, it's past their property already.
Well, it doesn't matter. Nobody should be parking in the road
It's only
because you're supposed to have them parking on your property.
But that is already past their property on our property.
Okay, but
So the reason what I'm just saying is that anybody blocking your call to have them towed, they shouldn't be blocking your property or anywhere. That's why I'm not sure why they would, I think that's more of a different issue. The instances that we saw in the photo was already past the property on the curve of the turned road that is only leading to our property. And
Do you own that road?
I don't know who owns the private road.
Okay, well, the point being that the ordinance says you will provide on your property parking space for all vehicles. They'll be parked on your property. The road is not your property. It doesn't even really matter that there's nobody between where the guy gets stuck and parks and your property.
Well, it's a good question,
Doesn't
who
matter.
owns the road?
It's a private road. It means everybody in that whole area, the whole circle, jointly owns the road.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, yes, we do. And it's, well, we think we do.
Exactly.
The town has told me, but,
Yeah.
and that you, as a private road, all the abutting property owners have a common requirement to maintain it. That's between you guys. Go ahead.
Can I make a clarification? So up that steep hill where it turns into their property, there is actually a piece of land there. It's not the private road. It's actually like a little parking lot there. That's their neighbor's lot. So maybe Zach, you can explain it.
Yeah, I live in, my name is Marco Leinig. I live on this premise for almost 40 years. And before, because we have a problem with the sharp cube and there's a big rock underneath, I spent $850 10 years ago, and the guy tried to take this out. There's no way you can move. It's a mark, it's too big. You have to just call the professional, just blow up. And we give up. He put back everything, and he extended a little bit on the side for the cars if there's an emergency or get stuck or something happened. He just extended or plow the snow and keep the bank over the snow bank.
It's not the private road, so it's the land.
Yeah, it's a private land.
Okay.
Okay.
That's-
And thus if there's something, he gets
people
stuck
park
on
there
behind,
as an emergency.
just not on the front of their houses, a little bit high,
Yeah.
okay? That's on the area when there's a cure. And after that, they start to come, oh, they give you money back, they give you money back, give you money back, you know. Well, they have a B&B, you should complain, He said, no, I just come visit my father. And they get so, you know, that means that they don't like my sister's renting, you know, and they have some extra income to pay the taxes, to pay the things, you know. I'm retired, not working. She's retired, not working. They make extra couple bucks. Why these people make a problem? I live 40 years old there. I never have a problem with nobody. But as soon as they come in, the problem starts.
Okay, enough.
Complaining.
I think we've heard everything now.
You know?
We got it.
Okay. I'm going to suggest we first decide on, are we going to look at this
Yeah,
as two cars parked on the road, blocking the road,
one incident.
one incident, or are we going to look at the larger question that's cited in the town violation letter of whether or not the violation letter is supportable because this short-term rental is not providing adequate parking on their property.
First, I don't think, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
First, I don't think we can, I mean, lovely to talk about all this stuff and what violations may have occurred in the past and that they get stuck out there on the road all the time. We can only address this violation letter
Yes.
for that specific incident. And the other question that would be in my mind would be, and they haven't made it real clear what the incident is, but the other thing that would be, question would be in my mind, is if you have an STR and you're permitted, which these folks are, and you tell your cousin, we're not renting it this weekend, come on up, does the cousin now, does that require them to have a place for the cousin to park on their property? I don't know the answer to that. But those are the two things that I'm thinking. We have to deal with this particular incident, not, you know, whether they may have been in the past or they, you know, that's all irrelevant to this. And if they're not required to have parking space for anybody who happens to be a relative who's using the spot because they're an STR but not paying for it, then we already know. I mean, we have the information on the vehicle. It was not a renter in the house.
Yeah, it was,
So
it was a relative who got stuck.
Yeah, and perhaps the selectmen didn't have that information at the time that they issued the violation notice. They assumed it was a renter. But why would they know? Why would they investigate who owned the car?
I don't know how a private road works. I know a town road, you can't park on the side of the road and leave your vehicle. The private road, I don't know, but it sounds to me like the potholes and stuff are brought up afterwards. If it's the rock, so you get somebody like Holman to go up, they blast it, they get it out of the way, and it takes care of the problem.
Yeah, well, but that's not, that's not
No,
that's not even our
people can get up.
concern here. Our concern is this violation notice, which they've appealed, saying that we shouldn't have got this violation notice because
My
it
cousin
wasn't an
got his car
STR, it wasn't a renter.
Yeah, I agree. If we're looking at this one single incident, it's a whole different story.
There are 5.
I don't think this is the forum to address all these other
No,
issues.
well, if we're talking now, if we adopt Dave's approach, then I think we have evidence that the car that was there on December 31st was not an Airbnb.
Right.
In fact, not even related to you people, the owners.
Right.
So
It's a
relative. It's a cousin.
Okay, but, so we could then, all this, I mean, this is more for your benefit, all that's gonna happen is that we, support the appeal.
Yeah.
Vacate
They vacate it.
violation.
And then they'll get another, if the town wants to, we have a complaint from January 28th.
Exactly.
The town can issue another second violation.
You could do that.
If this is, unless the town is somehow, I mean, you have an issue with the town and providing adequate parking on your property.
That you can get
Even
to.
if you, I think, even if we find in your favor, you're still gonna have to deal with that with the town, or you're gonna get another notice soon. But that's me speaking, maybe out of turn.
Excuse
I
me,
agree 100%. I
Excuse
think
me.
that's well described.
it's not suspicion for you, the same people always complain?
No, your complaint right here,
Because
the
they don't
larger
like somebody
complaint,
running.
I'm sympathetic to your concerns, and, what has to happen if we find that the violation on December 31st was not related to short-term rental, is this second violation notice goes away, but that doesn't mean the town can't issue another one soon. We're not the forum for deciding the bigger picture. As Dave mentioned, and Dave also agreed, all we're deciding right now is the town right or correct in sending a violation notice for December 31st. And, I think based on the facts, we think the town was not right.
If that's the only vehicle.
Yeah, so, but that doesn't solve your bigger problem, and this just probably postpones it for a month.
Or not.
We don't know what. It's up to the selectmen, and it's up to the selectmen and the building inspector, what happens next.
If the issue was that they did not provide enough parking for the size of the dwelling, that would be a whole different issue, as opposed to the access to it.
Well, it would be a different issue if we have, I haven't looked, but if we have an ordinance that says you have to have so many parking places. If we have an ordinance that says you've got a private road, you have to clear it, so that emergency vehicles, do we have an ordinance like that? I mean, that's not our question today, but it could be a question in the future.
So in the interest, since I've taken over chairman for this month, I think we're ready to vote. And
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the appeal and vacate the second notice because the incident on December 31st, which caused the second violation, was not because of the Airbnb
Not to it, STR, so.
short-term rental.
Right,
Uh,
I'll second
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
it.
Okay, so that means the second violation notice is no longer in effect, and we'll tell the building inspector and the town selectmen that. Again,
We need to explain to the hot selectmen and the building
Well,
inspector.
well, frankly, I think they know, they just thought, this is the process that you have to go through because we issued that. I think they know.
well,
I get the same information.
I mean, once they did the appeal, everything stops with the town, they have to come to us. Now that the appeal has been decided, it goes back to
The
the
town.
selectmen, and so for both the property owners who have this issue, not providing adequate parking through the entire year at your short-term rental, and the neighbors who are concerned, personally, I don't think this is the end, it's just that we, as a zoning board of adjustment, can only deal with this one violation. And I'll leave it at that.
Ginny Welly, that's my granddaughter coming. She come from LA and she just started
We
with the.
decided in your favor, so you don't have to argue anymore.
Well, for December 31st.
Yeah.
You've got another complaint here from January.
Yeah, so
That-
one more puts you back in the
January
same boat.
Which is, yeah, that's,
And that's between you and the building inspector and the board of selectmen.
And they may do nothing. Who knows what they're gonna do, but we got the complaint sitting here.
police inspector.
That's Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, I'm just trying to, do we know?
No, that's, no.
There's nothing wrong
in your favor. So.
Yeah, I know, but it seems like
stops
it's
right
gonna be, again, that this is an ongoing issue.
Well, it's an ongoing issue because we had a bad
It's not an issue
situation
now.
on that road.
And that's all we can do.
Simple as that.
And it may be that you can't comply and you might not be able to.
adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
Second?
All in favor? Great.
It's over.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is a public road, they should be paying for that. Find out. Get the lawyers involved.
Here we go. Who wants to talk to Kevin? Who wants to explain to Kevin what we did?
I'm just across the street. I'll talk with him.
Okay.
I see him walking between the fire department.
Kevin does a good job.
Yeah, but explain to them we found in their favor.
Or any ZBA or planning.
Yeah.
I was-
It wasn't,